Hey YouTube viewers, hashtag my global family. This is Dre Abeita, the YouTube academic, here with your hashtag Abeita reality dose. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2020, and I'm so glad that we're still chugging along, you guys. It has been a crazy COVID new reality, right? We've all been dealing with that. And there have been some hard-hitting questions about the inequality within the United States, right? I'm a critical race theorist, a whiteness intersectional scholar, and I've basically been preaching to the choir, right? Those of you guys who are my followers, preaching to the choir about inequality, right? Systemic racism, institutional racism, the school to prison pipeline, policies like redlining that have basically cut out poor whites, communities of color, LGBTQ folks, anyone who's been marginalized or different in American society has literally been affected by harsh policies and actual laws that have been put in place on the books in order to subjugate various groups in the United States. Again, this is about social control, people. It is about keeping the masses under control and keeping the powers that be in power. Our government is literally an oligarchy. And when I am debating with my colleagues in academia at conferences like the American Educational Research Association, the American Educational Studies Association, or the Critical Race Studies and Education Association, when I'm talking with my colleagues about these issues, we are literally talking about historic policies that have been implemented for hundreds of years, right? So how do you literally combat in your K-12 classroom institutional and systemic racism, right? The literal defunding of our public schools, the privatization of education, which is why I am literally worried that I will be one of the last Native American women to be able to pursue a PhD in this country. As COVID hits various communities in various ways, right? If you have money, if you've inherited wealth, that's how wealth happens in this country, you guys. Sociological studies, economics literally show that for the vast majority of people, with the exceptions of a couple bootstrappers, right, or the one in a billions like our Beyoncés and our Bill Gates, the billionaires of the world who've made it, and somehow these examples are used to shame the rest of us that somehow we're lacking. Well, wake up, ladies and gentlemen. We have been played by these systems, and it's time that we use critical theory and our actual lived experiences to inform the decisions we make, not only at the voting booth, but also in our daily lives, right? The reason that I work with white people, the reason that I'm a whiteness scholar that literally specializes in the creation of white allies, right? I've been teaching for the last 8 years, nurses, social workers, and educators, because those people literally are transforming the landscape of our society right now. All of our millions of kiddos literally go through the K-12 system, you guys. The policy, the curriculum, the teachers, everyone who's trying to access healthcare right now goes through a nurse. And my job for the last 8 years has been to make sure that these roles are filled with people who have a critical lens, first of all, and who actually understand racial dynamics within this country. You have to understand race relations in order to have any sort of idea of why our systems are failing us right now, right? Why are so many people unemployed? Let's look at the tax system, right? Those of you who have been following me on Facebook the last couple of days have been hearing my rants about how I owe taxes because my doctoral funding is taxed, you guys. So think about that. Today's topic was supposed to be, is education worth it? So let's talk about that. As far as taxes, no. My household income has been tanked, you guys. And I had to borrow a substantial amount from my mother. She gave it to me, but I'm paying her back, you guys. I love my mom and I appreciate her, but I'm also a grown woman. And let's talk about shame, right? I was supposed to go get married, buy a house, get a career, get a degree, and go make my mark in the world. Still doing it 15 years later, right? I'm still working on making sure that all happens. I've been blessed. I have a wonderful partner. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary last week. I have a house. So yay, 15 years of a mortgage, but we still owe like 90% of the principal, right? When you look at mortgages, you end up paying a lot of money in interest, you guys. But let's talk about that. I just had a conversation with my 27-year-old bestie, and she was talking about her generation is unable to make those same marks in life, right? Getting married, getting kids, buying a house, this, that, or the other. They are unable to make those same leaps or gains in society that my generation was able to make. We're literally 12 years apart, but our lived experiences are vastly different, and a lot of that has to do with our society and the way institutions have been treating us, right? Marx warned us that capitalist systems would exploit us as workers and not see us as individuals, but rather as products to be bought and sold. Yep, I'm a product, y'all, and I'm only as good as what I can produce for my employer. That is not a humanizing way for any of us to live in society. So let's talk about this. Is education really worth it after all? I am here, and I honestly couldn't tell you today that it was an absolute yes. And that makes me sad. I'm a professor, for crying out loud. My whole job is to make sure that nurses, social workers, and teachers get a good education so when they go out into the real world, they're not doing actual harm, right? And we know that there is harm that can be done. It's called white saviors, right? You guys can look that up. There's tons of literature in academia about white saviors. Bootstrapping, colorblindness ideology, all of these formerly good ideas have been deconstructed through critical theory and show the real harm they're doing to our communities. So I'm asking you guys, I cannot in good conscience as an educator in higher ed for 8 years and K-12 for 4 years, I can't honestly tell you that it's worth it to take on the debt of a college degree. That's a huge wake-up call. All of my colleagues out there who are educators, we have to re-examine these systems and ask ourselves, is it really fair if you're teaching in higher ed to ask your students to take on a boatload of debt in order to pay for their degree? I had a brother of mine who, yay, we're so excited, you guys. Employment is awesome, especially during COVID. It's a darn miracle. Sorry, guys, I'm working on my whole cussing thing. Those of you guys who know me in real life know this is actually really hard for me not to go off. But thank you guys, and I appreciate you. Anyways, so my brother accepted a job, brand new shiny PhD, but unfortunately he has to start off with a level 1 teaching degree in K-12. How does that make sense, you guys? Why should we tell our young people, go to college, get a degree, go back and serve your community, if they can't even pay the bills at the end of the day? We really need to examine how these systems are affecting us and, darn it, save our own lives. This is Dre Abeita, the YouTube academic, here with your hashtag Abeita Reality Dose. As always, hashtag be safe, my global family, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.